3, 2, 1.
We'd like to welcome you to another edition of GrokTALK, brought to you by New Hampshire's leading conservative blog site, GrokTALK.com. We are your feared, extremist, right-wing, hard-charging, gun-toting, opinionated, outspoken, rabble-rousing, letter-writing, radio microphone stomping conservatives and rational libertarians. So get ready for more news and opinion you could only get from GrokTALK.com.
Hey, welcome to GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald here with Mike Rogers and Skip Murphy. Thanks to Radical Moderate for calling in last segment to give us a piece of his mind. He's always doing that, and we love it. I don't mean that in a negative way. Anyway, don't forget to check us out on Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and YouTube and Ustream. Please visit us at GraniteGrok.com. And while you're at it, since you're already online, please go to cnht.org, check out what they do, make a donation, help support them, and by extension, this program. Moving forward, Wednesday we had a day. I don't know. You can't call it veto override day because there weren't any veto overrides, but the lovely and talented Susan Olson was there with a particular interest in SB 116, and we wanted to have a conversation with her about the events of the day, and so she has joined us. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Well, I'm in recovery.
A bit of a hangover?
I don't know if it's a hangover. I think it's more cooties than anything else.
Aha. So, say that again.
Hobnobbing with all those Democrats, eh?
Indeed. Ick.
All right, so, obviously, SB 116, you spent most of the year working on this legislation, promoting it, advancing it, and, of course, Wednesday, excuse me, partisan party lines in the Senate, they killed the veto override. Let's talk about it. What did you see? I mean, I don't know what there is to tell, but you were there.
Well, yes, I was there, and yes, actually, we spent more than a year on this bill. It wasn't just me. It was a bunch of terrific Second Amendment folks here in New Hampshire. Not even just, Second Amendment people. It's people who believe in fundamental freedoms and things like that apparently aren't so trendy anymore. So it was yours truly and folks from Pro Gun New Hampshire and New Hampshire Farmers Coalition, Gun Owners of New Hampshire, and believe it or not, the Vermont gun owners have been wonderful supporters throughout the process. But yeah, we had a bill introduced last summer that had been brought forward a couple of other times under the guise then of what people call constitutional carry, which actually is nothing more than a restoration of rights that New Hampshire residents had 139 years ago. But people seem to have forgotten that. We had a great champion in the Senate leading the fight on this bill, Jeb Bradley. I don't agree with Jeb on everything, but he stepped up to the plate and fought the fight and did a great job and said, you know what, we'll be back. But when we went through the Senate, I guess it was February, March, maybe, we came out of there with a 14-10 vote along straight party lines and went to the House, and we won in the House, although not by a veto-proof margin. But being the sweet, kind-hearted little old lady that I am, right, and everyone knows me to be, I'm thinking, well, the Senate Democrats showed their ignorance in voting against the bill in the Senate because they really didn't understand the history of the legislation. And, New Hampshire doesn't have a big paid staff for its legislators to do homework or investigate or analyze or anything. So we thought, you know what, we're going to do that work for them. And what we turned up, as you guys well know, was that the New Hampshire's pistol law, which Senate Bill 116 sought not to eliminate but to modify, came about in 1923 when all the white guys in the legislature in Concord demonstrated their ignorance and cowardice by passing legislation that punished legal immigrants and, forgive me, union workers. The Amoskeag Mills had just come off of a 9-month-long strike for better wages and better hours, and led by the United Textile Workers out of Massachusetts. Most of these people who'd gone on strike were legal immigrants, not illegal immigrants, people that had in fact been recruited to come in and work in the Amoskeag Mills, because I guess the white guys in Concord didn't want to do that work. So they brought in a bunch of people from overseas. And after the strike, it was a 9-month strike, they lost. But the fact remains that the guys in Concord thought, wait a minute, we can't have all these foreigners, legal immigrants, walking around with unfettered rights. So they did two things. They enacted this New Hampshire so-called pistol license law, which forbade forever foreign-born, unnaturalized citizens from owning firearms outright. Not that they could go and get a license and possess one, but they couldn't own one, period. Put them in the same class as felons. Secondly, they decided they couldn't, knowing that they couldn't outlaw guns. They couldn't do it. Even this Democrat moron Governor Fred Brown realized he couldn't outlaw guns. But he outlawed them for some people, and for the rest of the folks in New Hampshire, the law-abiding citizens of New Hampshire, he made it to where they had to go beg their local police chief for a piece of paper and the local police chief's blessing that they were, in fact, sufficiently suitable to own a firearm. Problem is, they didn't define suitable. So it was in the eyes of Democrat Governor Fred Brown and all his white buddies in the legislature. Bad idea. So we thought, okay, let's explain this to the New Hampshire Senate Democrats, because aren't Democrats the party of the people, of the minorities, of the unions, of the little guy? And one by one, we met with only a few of them, because most of them wouldn't talk to us. Certainly, Haggie Masson, not the least of them, she absolutely refused to talk to us. But we went to senators that we thought, by virtue of their records and their reputation and my own personal knowledge as a recovering lobbyist, went to talk to them to explain this to them. And we thought, you know what, now that you know this, you may not like the idea of firearms, but you have to take on board and take to heart the fact that your own party did this. So let's fix that. Well, we had hopes that there were a couple of senators, sensible senators, on the Democrat side that might go, all right, we'll hold our nose about the firearms, but we'll vote to do the right thing. And the further this went, the longer this went, I think, knowing that Haggie intends to run for Senate, and that any dissension on the part of her minions, and this is a small M minion, this is not a big M minion, because I like big M minions. She and her minions, she wasn't going to brook any dissent. And so Big Bad Jeff Woodburn, the king of the North Country, whipped his folks into shape, and we got a straight 14-10 vote out of it. Disappointing. But the worst part of it is the same guy that led the floor fight originally, Senator David Pierce from Hanover and Lyme and Enfield and all those snotty places up near Dartmouth, got up, and this guy is alleged to be an attorney, right? I've never checked to see if he really got out of school or passed his bar exam. This guy who's alleged to be an attorney gets up and lies. All right? And he sees the camera out of the corner of his eye a couple of times, and I guess he blinked, but this guy stands up and says that, you know what? Why should firearms be treated any differently from any other constitutional right for which we must register? Did you know that Senator David Pierce believes that the right to vote is somewhere in the Bill of Rights?
Oh, I'm not surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, and he says constitutional carry, you know, it sounds good, it feels good, it looks good, but when you look under the hood, it's just misleading. And then he goes on to insult our neighbors to the west in Vermont, saying that, you know, you hear all of this stuff that Vermont's the safest place in the country, and they don't have any gun laws at night. Well, he makes stuff up. This guy just makes stuff up, I guess thinking that people don't do their homework. Well, the guys from Vermont happen to be in the gallery. And the guys from Vermont happen to hear this moron. And I happen to send the video that we took of Senator Pierce to the guys in Vermont. So, the fact that the license that was brought into being by the original piece of legislation is still on the books, it's going to remain on the books, and that these guys think it's all about public safety is baloney. And anybody who believes differently must be a Republican, because all the Senate Democrats went along with it. They went along with Maggie, and they poked their finger in the eye of every law-abiding New Hampshire citizen. So maybe I'm still a little raw after this, but you know what? I'm just going to rest up and go at it again.
Well, good for you.
And hooray for you. Do you want me to resurrect the Sand and the Minions picture for this?
That'd be great.
It's in it's in the library if you want to just grab it for your post.
Oh, I'll do that. And then we need to start taking a hard look at Senator Pierce. You probably can't dislodge him from the ivory towers that are his district, but there are two senators. Old half-baked Hosmer from Laconia.
That would be mine.
That would be yours. And big bad Jeff Woodburn, king of the North Country. Because, you know, I think an awful lot of folks in their districts kind of think that they have a right to keep and bear arms, notwithstanding what Senator Pierce has to say. So, you know, we're just gonna take a break for a little bit, and then we're gonna go back in and work on these guys, because we only needed 2 votes in the Senate.
Hey, we're going to take a break too, and you stay on the line, and we will be right back. We're talking to Susan Olson. This is GrokTALK.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
From the CNHT studios in Concord, New Hampshire, just a few blocks from the New Hampshire State House, this is
GrokTALK.
Welcome back. We are talking to Susan Olson about Veto Override Day, SB 116, Democrats who need to go away, all of them essentially, but we're focusing on a couple here. Half-Baked Hosmer and King of the North Country.
King of the North Country.
Jeff Woodburn.
Well, you know, I'd even think that the people in Pierce's district value their right to self-defense. You can't tell me that every professor that's managed to get himself a nice home doesn't want to defend his property and his family.
Yeah, but he can. It's the other people.
Yeah.
It's those other people.
He wouldn't do it himself. He wouldn't sully his little lily white hands. He'll just hire some, foreign-born person to do it, maybe, huh? They love their servants up there.
Yeah, it's tough around Dartmouth. I see your point. He would be difficult to dislodge. Those other two are definitely... I mean, if you're going to focus your energy, you really want to do it on candidates you know you have a shot at removing from office.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think this is Peter Ho Burling's former district, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, you look at Peter the Hoe Burling, and then his successor. Forget his name. I can see his face. Nice man, but not very effective. He didn't win and was unseated by David Pierce, who actually is quite a nice guy, but he's not a very good liar.
Now, you had mentioned that you've got video. I noticed that we don't have it up on Granite Rock just yet. Is that possible to do?
Well, what I'd like to be able to do is overlay in subtitles what this guy says, because it's so much fun to match his words to his facial expressions.
Sorry, I don't have the skills to do that.
Well,
I don't have the software to do it.
We have somebody
either.
who's working on it, so you will have it.
Oh, good.
And what's really fun is the overlay in the existing video of Pierce against his colleagues in the background and watching some of their faces. That's priceless.
Well, once again, we see basically what the Democrat socialist side of the aisle says once again, hey, we don't trust you. And isn't that really the biggest problem? That these big government types believe that only those in government can actually figure things out and are bright enough to make all the decisions for the rest of us. And that is the biggest philosophical and ideological divide between us and the lying senator.
Well, I'd say that's absolutely a fair statement, but I would say that Democrats give small g government a bad name.
No, they don't even recognize small g. Everything is all in upper caps.
Absolutely, it is, and it's getting worse here in New Hampshire. And you think about this being the alleged live free or die state, when it is in fact the live free and ask permission state, and that goes across the board for many things, whether it's your natural right to self-defense, whether it's your right as a parent to say yes and no regarding the things that occur with your child at school. The veto override day was not. Nothing was overridden. Nothing of the governor's vetoes were overridden. And again, partly it's because you've got this firewall in the Senate, the 14-10 divide. But it's ideological. I think Haggie's announcing her candidacy today at the Democrat convention, and you look at what they've got queued up. You've got Baby Shaheen, who announced in the Portsmouth Herald 2 or 3 days ago that she wasn't going to run again because she was going to volunteer and focus her time on diabetes awareness. Did you read that headline?
No, I did not.
No,
I kept it and I screenshotted it, because the next day it's the same picture of her with the Eddie Munster hairline, announcing that she may run for governor, because I guess it's all that whole divine right of dictators. You've got Bushes, you've got Clintons, you've got Sununus, and you now got Shaheens. I guess this is equal opportunity empirism.
So you said Baby Shaheen, so it's not Jeannie herself.
No. It's her daughter, who apparently is a one-time city councilor out of Portsmouth.
Well, it makes her qualified.
It does. Although, being a city councilor in Portsmouth does put you in real touch with the people, right?
It does, yeah.
Yeah, like Martha Fuller Potter, who I actually grabbed in the elevator the morning of the veto. And I rode up and I said, Senator, I've been trying to meet with you for weeks and weeks. And in fact, I had, several months ago, dropped off a briefing book on the history of pistol licensing. And she looked at it and she went, okay. And it may be just because she was off her meds for that day, but rode up with her in the elevator and I said, Senator, I've been trying to meet with you. And she says, I can't meet with you. And I said, well, I realize it's a little late now. I said, but, I've had past tense, I didn't say that, but I said I've had respect for you in the past as a civil libertarian. I said, and I know that you know in your heart that this is wrong. And she says, well, you can't say that, and I'm going to vote against it.
Well, so much for honest back and forth with someone on the other side of the aisle from her standpoint.
Well, it was in the
Here-
elevator, and we're the only two people that heard it, unless the elevators are bugged. But, you know, this is the same woman that rode up on the curb and hit two people driving, so I'm not sure
Well, no,
that she even got what I was saying.
it's to the point where we're always hearing about civility and bipartisanship from the Democrats, yet when it's time to do so, they go right back to the party dogma.
Well, it's only bipartisanship if Republicans bend over and grab their ankles.
And that's
Excuse
the
me.
point I was waiting to hear from you.
And that's it. That's it. Come on, let's face it.
No,
It's only bipartisan if Republicans or conservatives cave.
Correct.
There's never bipartisanship. If it were bipartisan, a couple of freaking Democrats would have joined us on the vote.
And besides, liberal doesn't mean liberal with, with social, with human rights. It means liberal with other people's money, and
Precisely.
liberal with morality, i.e., the less the better.
Yeah, and now
Exactly.
we're back to the discussion of government with a small g or government in all big caps. And I think that little vignette you just gave us is absolutely indicative of the all caps kind of deal. But you've got to admit, the Republicans, for all of the rhetoric expressed at campaign rallies and events and in the platform, they are the junior Democrats, part and parcel, and the only thing they care about is Republicans for the sake of the Republican parties, and as long as they're in power or have some sway in it, I've gotten to the point where I'm getting ready to say they're just politicians, period, without any kind of foundation.
If they don't toe the line on the party platform, they're worthless. I mean, Donald Trump, I think, made a statement a few weeks ago that none of the others bothered to do when he signed the pledge for the Republican Party and to the conservative principles for which it stands, which nobody else actually did. I mean, he gets it. Even if he's not going to toe that line, he gets it. And Jindal on the junior debate. If we can't defund Planned Parenthood now, if we can't stand up for innocent human life after these barbaric videos, it is time to be done with the Republican Party.
Well, I'll tell you what. Embroidered on all of the pillows in my home are two phrases. The first one says, "Screw D.C." The second one is "Save New Hampshire." So you guys know that I don't give a red rat's rear end about national politics. I really don't, because if we can't save New Hampshire, if we can't preserve what at one point was the home of the guys who actually took on the British government post its attempts to disarm the citizenry, if we can't save New Hampshire and preserve that legacy and recognize that legacy, it really doesn't matter what goes on in Washington. Look at Kelly Ayotte, for God's sake. She would have been just as happy for the Republicans to continue to fight Maggie Hassan over the budget, because it keeps Hassan busy when she could be actually fundraising to run against Kelly Ayotte. And I'll tell you something else, guys. How much time do I have before the next break?
For your segment's over in about 4.5 minutes.
Okay, good. Now, a couple of 3 weeks ago, I don't remember the date exactly, there's a big gun show in Concord, right?
Yep, we talked to you.
Yeah, and at that gun show, no politicians showed up. But, although allegedly Lindsey Graham showed up, but I don't consider him whatever. But sitting there at a table, and on the table is a petition. And we're asking people to sign this petition to tell not just Maggie Hassan, but the Senate Democrats that they need to overturn the veto on 116. So I chose this relatively unattractive photo of Hagee to put on the petition. And this guy walks by with, I don't know, maybe a $30 haircut, walks by and sees this picture of Hagee. He goes, "Oh, what's this all about?" So I explain it to him. And he looks vaguely familiar to me, right? And I said, "Would you like to fill this out?" And he says, "You bet." And so I introduced myself, and he introduces himself, and he says, And I felt so sorry for this poor bastard. He goes, I'm Kelly Ayotte's husband. Not that she's my wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And I took about 30 minutes. And I said, well, I don't know what you're signing this petition for. I said, your wife opposed this when she was the Attorney General. Not only did she oppose constitutional carry, if that's what you want to call it, she opposed stand your ground. I said, why would you sign this? Your wife doesn't agree with this. And he looks at me, and he says, well, that's not true. And I said, well, yes, it's true. I said, call her up and ask her. And so he's on the phone with her for some other reason. And I said, well, you can tell your wife that I'm the one that gave her the 9mm earrings with the big 10mm pearls on it, okay, at the Warner Fall Foliage Festival 3 or 4 years ago, whenever she was running. And he looked at me, he goes, I remember that. I said, well, she doesn't. So why would you sign this petition? He's like, so he's all indignant and wanting to, God bless him. Any man that says, that's my, I'm her husband, instead of that's my wife, all right, already I feel a little sorry for her, but not enough.
Oh, wow.
But he did give me his email and cell phone number, which I'm selling, by the way, to any interested parties. I'm kidding, of course.
Just pull a Trump and just put it out there.
I think I might. In fact, maybe I should publish a photograph of that petition, because I kept all of them before I turned them in.
Mm-hmm.
I would.
I think I will, and I'll send that to McAyotte.
I haven't gotten to it yet, but I guess she confronted Ted Cruz, and she wants to know how he's going to be successful with the next government shutdown. And as all true conservatives know, the only real government we normally need the federal government for is pretty much the military. Everything else could be done by the states, pretty much. So when they talk
they
about,
can bury the dead.
Well, yeah, but if the federal government shuts down, big deal. We got 50 more right behind it. But I think...
Yeah, look at what happened to New Hampshire while we've been in this budget stalemate. Oh, my God, oh, my God.
Yeah, we save money.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, isn't that what the conservative Republicans should be doing? The Republican Party should have been joyful.
Isn't that an oxymoron?
Well, it seems to be lately. But as far as the Republican Party, they should have been overjoyed at, hey, we're saving the taxpayers' money. And what happened? Yeah, pretty much they caved just like the D.C. Republicans caved down there. So, saving New Hampshire is going to be a longer-term effort than what we think.
Well, you know what? But it may be more manageable. It may be more manageable.
I would think it is.
We've got 1.3 million people here. If we can't save this, what do we think we can do with 300 million? Come on.
Yeah, still. I mean, you're right. If anybody's going to
actually,
do
in
it,
the true federalist sense, they aren't ours to save.
Indeed, they are not. Indeed, they are not. We live here. This is New Hampshire. I live in New Hampshire. I care about New Hampshire. I don't give a damn about Washington. Leave me alone. Pull up the drawbridge. Build a wall.
The problem, as one wag said, is you may not be interested in politics, but politics is certainly interested in you, and that certainly applies to Washington, D.C.
All right,
well, fine. Let them come and get me.
Right, they're gonna have to come and get you tomorrow because we're done. And we're going to move on. Our next segment coming up is Steve Lonigan, and thanks for being on the show. Have a good weekend.
My pleasure, guys. Have a great day.
All right, you too. All right, we will be right back with Steve, and this is GrokTALK. I'm Steve McDonald. Lost my train of thought. Bye.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
This is a coalition of New Hampshire taxpayers. We're located at 8 North Main in Concord, New Hampshire. This is a repository for all things conservative and municipal. So if you have a problem in your town, your school, your budget committee, the right to know law, and now the top of our list is voter fraud. If you have a tip for us, some information for us, you want to join or help us out, cnht.org.
Grok TV.